Hey guys, today he'll be explaining the Bosko Iceberg. If you guys do not know who Bosko is, he was a Looney Tunes character from 1929 to 1933, and after that he became a MGM character until he was retired in 1937. He'll now explain the iceberg. Bosko was the main character of Looney Tunes from 1929 to 1933. Bosko was actually popular at his time, despite him being quite bland, but not as bland as Buddy, who we will get into later. Honey is Bosko's girlfriend, who appeared alongside him in Harmon and Ising's Looney Tunes shorts. She wears a white dress and a polka-dotted bow in her hair. She stopped appearing in Looney Tunes shorts when Harmon and Ising parted ways with Leon Schlesinger. Looney Tunes was the first cartoon studio Bosko was involved in. Looney Tunes is now known for Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck. Wilbur was a recurring character in some Bosko cartoons that usually caused trouble. Bosko the Talking Kid was the first Bosko film and was the Looney Tunes pilot episode before Schlesinger picked the series up. In 1935, Bosko had a redesign that made him obviously a black stereotype, and it looked like this. Bruno is a Warner Brothers character. He was created by Hugh Harman and Rudolph Ising. Roxy's dog in One More Time is nearly identical. Bruno is Bosko's dog of indeterminate breed. He's dark grey-brown in colour versions, with a few black patches. His tail is hairless and, despite being a dog, he lacks canine teeth. Eighth Manved is a YouTube channel that uploads old cartoons, including Bosko. Eighth Manved is infamous for stretching his prints to 16, 9 aspect ratio. Most Bosko shorts went in the public domain because Warner Brothers couldn't renew the copyright in time. However, every Bosko cartoon released after Bosko, the Lumberjack, is still under copyright. Bosko had a few censored and cut scenes, including one where pigs drink alcohol that was censored from a few reruns. Foxy is a short, black-furred fox with a white face, a black nose, a black bushy tail, and teardrop-shaped ears. He wears a white pair of shorts and black shoes with white spats, along with white gloves. In 1925, Hugh Harman drew images of mice on a portrait of Walt Disney. Disney and the Bi-Works would then use it as an inspiration for their creation of Mickey Mouse, the character who eventually became Disney's most popular one. Knowing that Disney and I-Works had cashed on their little idea, Harman and Ising figured it was only fair that they should conceive a character of a similar mold, thus leading to the creation of Foxy. Animator Rudolph Ising introduced Piggy as a second character after Foxy to star in the Merry Melodies series. Ising was directing for film producer Leon Schlesinger. Nonetheless, Ising had only made to Piggy shorts in 1931 before he went on to create Goopy Gear. Bosko's Dizzy Date, also known as Bosko and Honey, is a 1932 Looney Tunes short directed by Hugh Harman. This short was issued under two names. It can be assumed that Bosko and Honey was a working title that somehow made it to print, as well as the Bosko's Dizzy Date title. Bosko's Dizzy Date was ultimately the film released. Bosko and Honey was left unreleased, despite the two being the same short film with very few differences. Bosko and Honey fell into the public domain, but not Bosko's Dizzy Date. This cartoon was shown in theaters, with I Am a Fugitive from a Chain Gang during its original release. Buddy has his origins in the chaos that followed after animators Hugh Harman and Rudolph Ising quit their deal with producer Leon Schlesinger in 1933. Harman and Ising went to work for Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, taking Bosko with them, as they retained the rights to the character without his animators and star character. Schlesinger was desperate to build his own cartoon studio and maintain his contract with Warner Brothers. He lured in several animators from other studios, among them Tom Palmer, Schlesinger told his new employees to create a star character for the studio, and Tom Palmer created Buddy in 1933. Bob Clampett has referred to Buddy as Bosko in Whiteface. Buddy's films are not much different from Bosko's. Music dominates in Buddy's world, and the characters merely exist to add a visual to the soundtrack and to participate in the odd gag. Buddy is often accompanied in his films by his flapper girlfriend, Cookie, and his dog, Tozer. The character would go on to star in 23 cartoons from 1933 to 1935 before he was retired to make way for Beans, who became the third Looney Tunes star. Beans would soon be displaced by his co-star Porky Pig. The Idaho Film Archive is an archiving company that archives films including Bosko. Harmon drew Bosko back in 1928, a few months before Mickey was a character. Nickelodeon began airing Looney Tunes on Nickelodeon on the 12th of September 1988. One initially, Nickelodeon's selection of Looney Tunes was made mostly of black and white pre-1943 cartoons and cartoon shorts of the post-1960 time period, plus colorized versions of the Porky Pig cartoons from the 1930s and early 1940s. Nick did have access to some cartoons released between 1948 and 1960, though, and thus aired them very often until 1993. Each installment tended to feature 3 or 4 cartoons, of which the second, usually black and white, starred Bosko, Buddy, or Porky Pig. During the first few years of Looney Tunes on Nickelodeon, Bosko and Honey appeared in an episode of Tiny Toons, where Babs didn't have a mentor, so she watched the cartoon Bosko in person, and she saw Honey. Babs thought Honey had potential to be her mentor. Negro Boy was a working title for Bosko's name. When Bosko was first drawn, all the Bosko cartoons, still under copyright, are owned by Warner Media, as are the original film elements of those cartoons that have fallen into the public domain. Warner Brothers bought back Bosko in the late 90s. Despite Bosko being a Negro boy, Buddy actually had more racist cartoons than Bosko. Bosko only had one racist cartoon, while Buddy had not one, not 2, but 3 racist cartoons. Warner's did this to try to make Buddy a bit more interesting, but that just made him worse. Bosko had a bizarre coloring book made in 1957. Not much is known about the coloring book, except that Bosko and Honey had horrifyingly uncanny faces, and they had cat tails for some reason. It's unknown what's actually inside the coloring book, but oddly, the coloring book says that Bosko is a star of Looney Tunes. By the way, this was 39 years before Warner's regained rights to Bosko. In the Looney Tunes cartoons episode Graveyard Goofs, Bosko's name can be seen on a tombstone. This can imply that Bosko is deceased, but this is just a theory. This is just promotional material for some of Bosko's cartoons. Some lobby cards are really hard to find too, and Sinking in the Bathtub has lots of promotional material because it is the first released Looney Tunes cartoon. Due to Bosko's Looney Tunes design, he does look a bit like an ape of some sort, and it's easy to misconcept him of a monkey, because back in the Looney days, Bosko didn't actually look like a Negro boy that much. In the 1930s, there were popular characters that had merchandise including Mickey, Scrappy, and Bosko. Bosko had a plush when he was a Looney Tunes character, and it didn't look horrifying unlike some of the Mickey toys from that time. Bosko actually had other merch not including the plush or the coloring book. For example, Bosko had pins, even Wilbur had a pin. There were also Bosko and Honey masks. The list goes on. Before we go into the last tier, be sure to like and subscribe to my channel, or Bosko will break into your house and steal all your food and money. After that we will hop into the final tier of the Bosko Iceberg. There are a lot of Bosko films out there, and a few may be lost to time, or the original negatives got destroyed. This could only be speculation, but what did these potentially lost Bosko films contain? This is a theory that Bosko and Buddy are the same character, but in an alternate reality, so Bosko and Buddy literally have the same personality. Also, they both have girlfriends and dogs and have a similar design, so they could just be the exact same character. But in a different reality or dimension, there was a Bosko creepypasta named Bosko the Killer. But during editing I noticed that the creepypasta is just gone for some reason. It was horribly written, just like any other creepypasta out there. From what I remember, it contained Bosko killing his friends. There are actually bootleg Bosko merch that you can buy online, like Bosko t-shirts, leggings, hats and more. There are even Buddy bootleg merch. These items come from a website called Redbubble. Bosko has been obscured for many years because of Buddy replacing him, and he being replaced by Beans, then Porky Pig, and then Bugs Bunny. Bosko was retired at MGM 1938. During editing I learned that Bosko was retired in 1938, not 1937. And also Harmon and Ising basically gave up on the character, but who knows? Will he make a comeback, or he's dead like in Graveyard Goofs? Is Buddy dead too? And also, Harmon died in 1982, and Ising died in 1992, so the return of Bosko and Honey is really unlikely. They both last appeared in Tiny Toons. Bosko is a really obscure character, and not too many people are even aware about him. But who knows? He might get a movie in like 2025 or something, if he will have his own show with Honey. But all we can do is to unofficially reappear him, by just including him in your animations or work. I know it isn't much, but that's all we can do. Unless someone becomes a Warner employee and makes a Bosko cartoon or something. When I was making this iceberg, I forgot a few entries, so here. I will do these forgotten entries here. On February 12, 1955, Warner Brothers sold the TV distribution rights to 191 of their black and white cartoons to Guild Films through Sunset. The cartoons part of the deal were the black and white Looney Tunes and all of the non-harmonizing black and white Merry Melodies. All references to Warner Brothers in the cartoons were removed, because Warner did not want to antagonize theater owners. As a result of their television deals, Guild Films would hold on to the TV distribution rights to the cartoons until its bankruptcy on March 6, 1961, and the TV rights to the 191 cartoons would be acquired by Seven Arts Productions. Some of the films Guild Films gained were Bosko films. I know I mentioned this a couple of times, but I didn't really thoroughly talk about this. But anyways, when Bosko broke up with Warner Brothers created Buddy. But while Buddy was a Looney Tune, at the MGM studios, Bosko was a recurring character. For Bosko's first 2 films at MGM, he still had his Looney Tunes design, but in 1935, Bosko got a new design. Bosko then had this new design until 1938, when Bosko was discontinued due to the over-budget of Happy Harmonies and the stereotyping of the black boy. The character was retired in 1938. He only appeared in 9 Happy Harmonies shorts. He has the most appearances out of any character in the series. Anyways, those are the missing entries. And this is the end of the Bosko Iceberg, so goodbye guys.